Hello people, it's Taz101 Saga, coming at you live from lockdown Britain once again. And it's time for something I haven't done for a while, a gun review. CZ75, this is the KJ Works model. I finally got around to using it about 5 or 6 times now, both on gas and CO2 mags. So some people most people actually just go one way or the other on terms of what magazines they pick, but I've used both so I can give you a better contrasting view between the two and the merits of both. Let's go into it. Right, so KJ Works makes a few different variants of this. The latest being the CZ75 Shadow 2, which is essentially, well, both of the Shadows actually. They're modernised versions of the CZ75 and they do have some different features. Something to note is the barrel for the CZ75 and the SP01 are not interchangeable. You can't buy an upgraded barrel with like a threaded muzzle for the SP01 and put it on this. So there are some parts differences in terms of the variants. But that aside, it depends what your taste is. I've always liked the CZ75. I feel it's quite an underrepresented pistol in airsoft, so I was quite interested in getting one. And I can already tell you the KJ version is awesome. I love this gun. It's my favourite pistol that I've ever used. As much as I love my Tokyo Marui 6-hour 226 with the upgrades I put in it, this thing stock shoots better than that. I'm not even kidding, it's amazing. Right, so in terms of a double stack modern semi-automatic pistol, it's a lot of the familiar stuff that you're used to. So the grip is pretty basic, it's quite a nice grip actually, I do like it, feels nice. And the top of the grip there is ideal for your thumb and you can get to the safety very easily. The safety is something that's probably a little bit dated by today's standards, but I still like it, it works for me. Your mag release is in the normal place that you'd expect on modern guns, activated by the thumb, and it's textured as well, serrated, so works fine, pretty standard stuff. External hammer, of course, which of course fires it off, and it is also double action. Also has a half cock position, which unless you actually charge the gun manually with the slide and set it to half cock, only then will it actually fire the gun off. If you simply do it like this, nothing will happen basically. Here you have the slide lock and slide release. So if you want to lock the slide back manually, you can, and you can release it. Personally, I prefer to release pistol slides by actually racking them because it puts slightly less wear on this part. On the right side, we don't really have anything, just the ejection port, of course, where that would be the mop extractor right there, which is a nice little bit of detail, camera focus. Basic front sight, we don't have an external spring guide sort of poking out like a 1911, so that's all sealed off. The barrel itself is kind of a nice silvered colour on the KJ Works. You can get an aftermarket one that actually has a serial number on, and I think they do actually ship a model with trades, although you don't tend to see that one very often. It's more expensive anyhow. The slide is a slightly different colour on this one to what you get stock. It's a bit more shiny, if you can see that, because I've done a little bit of work to it. That's why it's a slight different colour and contrast to the frame. You can see there when I glint it in the light, but other than that it's all a stock gun. I've not changed anything internally. In terms of internal upgrades, there are a few things you can get for these, but they don't have anywhere near as much aftermarket support compared to pistols that are made by Tokyo Marui and WE Tech and stuff like that. But I don't really think it needs it. In terms of the sights, it's pretty basic. It's just your basic sights. I'm not sure if you can get glow sights for these. I believe they are on the Shadow models because they're a much more kind of updated version of the CZ platform. So something I don't really like about it particularly when it comes to the function is the slide is quite small. It's much more suitable for using a thumb and forefinger to rack it rather than using kind of a modern method, because it's quite easy to not get a good grip and it slip from your hand, especially if you're used to something like a Glock or a Sig Sauer or a Heckler & Koch USP, which will have very big beefy slides in a smaller frame. This has a slide in frame design, you can probably see that there. It's actually not riding on the frame, it's riding within it. However, the fact you have a slide like this, it is lighter than a comparable gas blowback pistol with a larger, chunkier slide with more metal mass. What you do get from this is a very snappy action on CO2 and gas, but definitely CO2. The recoil is not quite as much as maybe I'd like, but it makes the gun very gas efficient. It's extremely snappy. And one of the best things about this pistol is the trigger. The trigger is absolutely wonderful. Just show you that there. It's fully cocked at the moment, so we've got a very smooth, crisp action there. And it goes off. The reset is lovely. Very, very positive. The safety is very simple. If you see the little red dot, it means the pistol is on fire. Flip that up so it's covered. Now it's on safe. So you can carry it cocked and locked like the old school 1911s always were. Or you can manually release this. I wouldn't recommend doing this with a magazine in, just in case you let it slip, and this is going to recoil and bash your fingers and it's not too pleasant. So just let it up manually and then insert your magazine. Now as long as you've charged a round into the chamber first, when you pull the trigger then, I didn't do that did I, because I did it manually, then it will fire in double action. So the magazines, there's two different options you can get. Now they are compatible with both the KJ Works gas magazines and the CO2 magazines out of the box. You don't need to modify anything to interchange magazines. If you see a website saying CO2 gas version, blah blah blah, CO2/gas version should I say, what they actually mean is it's either shipping with a gas mag or a CO2 mag. It's not actually a different version of gun. That has confused at least a couple of people I've seen posting on YouTube comments. So here's the gas magazine and this is the CO2 magazine. Easy to tell them apart because the CO2 magazine, even if it's in the gun and you can't see this obvious CO2 slot, it has a very big base plate. I actually love that base plate, although that might be annoying to some if you're going for the original kind of 70s look where they didn't have a base plate on magazines. Then you'd want something that's kind of correct, like the gas mag, so it's flush like that. But I actually like it because it makes them far easier to grab from mag pouches. In terms of weight, the CO2 capsules weigh very little, so I won't really take that into account. They're pretty much the same. There's no weight difference in the two. So the gas magazines, pretty basic. They just fill from the bottom like any TMWE or whatever, and they have a release valve there, and obviously the gas comes out there. These tend to work best, I find, on ultra air gas. You might not be able to get that depending on what country you're in, I don't know. It's quite popular in the UK. It's the ASG Players' Choice Awards gas is what is actually printed on the can now. I've found that this seems to be a bit fussy on gas, at least in my experience. I only got one mag of each out just to prove the point, but all of my gas mags for this, they seem to have the same problem. They don't like black gas, they don't like the pro gas I have, and they don't like the brute sniper gas. They seem to be very inconsistent in the amount of blowback and feet per second that they're putting the BBs out. As soon as I put ultra air in though, it was perfect. It was like a completely different gun. So these seem to be quite fussy on what complexion and pressure of gas you put in them. That's just my experience. But you might be playing in a warm climate in a country, you know, where it's pretty much warm most of the year, so you're probably going to want to opt for gas, not for CO2, unless you've got very high FPS limits. I found that in cold weather, like we're talking about very cold, like 1 degrees, 2 degrees, CO2 is excellent, it still works fine. That's where these really shine, and this pistol shines in CO2, is in cold weather, because you can have a full metal pistol with CO2 capsules and you can fire the whole thing really rapidly and not get cooldown still. I mean, that's what's so good about a CO2 gun. Bear in mind though, in obviously warmer climates, that will make the gas expand more and you'll get higher FPS, so just be wary guys. Make sure you chrono this in the temperature you're planning to use it in. And if possible, shoot off a few shots first, just to bring the edge off the capsule. CO2 is where this gun really shines. The performance of this has been absolutely amazing on CO2. I've literally gotten about 60 metres range on .28s without a hitch. I was hitting man-sized targets. It's pretty remarkable on CO2 with good hop setting. As long as you're using good BBs, that's important as well. Personally, I use longbow BBs. I think they're excellent. And Jeff BBs are okay as well. But longbows are better in my experience. So that's just what I use. Your results may vary depending on climate, terrain, ambient temperature, all this other stuff you have to take into account when you're trying to bring a gas gun to perfection. But just in my experience, this has been amazing in terms of range and accuracy on CO2. So just a quick note of how the CO2 actually goes for those that aren't familiar. All you do to actually access it, you might be looking at the bottom where normally CO2 mags will have an obvious hex screw, but there's nothing here. So you're like, so how do I get this thing off? Just put your nail on that little bit there, pull this down and you'll see that pin retract, and then you simply hold this and slide it off. And then you can unscrew, of course, the capsule, put it in. Don't over tighten it, there's no reason to, because you're going to undo it when the thing runs out. So as long as the hissing has stopped, just do it a quarter turn more and then stop, it's fine. Just hold this down and you can slide the base plate back on. Yeah, these are good mags. Make sure you keep them obviously lubricated. Look after the seals, because CO2 is a dry gas, of course. Let's have a look at how to field strip this guy. Pretty easy really, it's a bit like a 1911, the slide lock just pops out. So first thing you want to do is rack it. Make sure the safety is off, otherwise the slide can't move, so keep that off. Now you'll see two little lines there. It's quite simple, you just line those up and then with your finger on this side push through on the slide lock. They do have to be pretty much perfect or it's not going to budge. Just find that spot. There you go. And then it will come out. Rack it back and then let it forward. So put your frame down there. And inside we have our, of course, inner barrel assembly, nozzle group here. This is the spring guide. Now you simply just yank that and it comes out. Something that's nice that they've done on this, because it's CO2, is they put a little rubber piece there. It's like a shock absorber, so it doesn't bang into the front of the slide so hard. Distributes the force a bit more evenly, so that'll actually stop the gun wearing as fast or something cracking. So we'll put this over to one side again. All you do then is same as any other inner barrel, really, just bring it slightly forward and up and it will just come out like that. If you want, you can separate your inner barrel from your outer, but I won't go that far because it's not really needed. You see there's the hop up there. I only have it adjusted that much on CO2, it's only slightly down, and that's pretty much perfect for me. Obviously if the temperature changes, you might have to adjust the hop up again. I found on this gun, talking of the hop up, it's that screw there to adjust it. I found on this gun it's a little bit fussy in terms of you do have to have it absolutely sort of perfect to get the right trajectory, but when you do, if you're just patient with it, it's excellent. This gun's got some serious range. I can't stress that enough. At least with the setup I've been using it with the BBs and everything, it's been wonderful. Something that's really nice about this gun actually is it's incredibly easy to get the nozzle group out. In fact, there's only one screw and there's no tiny pins or anything. There's only a spring which runs along the side to enable the reset, but that's easy to get back in. You'll see there's an Allen bolt there. Right, there's the screw, so make sure you keep hold of that. Then you'll just have this tiny little plate. That will come out. It might be a bit stiff when you first get it. But being this is a CO2 gun, obviously some of these parts may get very dry if you don't lube it for a long time. So that's why I'm showing you how to take this out so you can look after it. And then this whole unit will essentially just drop out. Now make sure you don't lose that spring, put that back in there before you reassemble it. And it's quite easy from this point on. You simply will take the spring out just so we don't lose it. That pops down. And then we simply remove the nozzle group and that's it. Make sure this O-ring is lubricated and that's clean and a bit of oil on it as well. Put it back in the right way. Then we're just going to drop the spring back into that channel. Make sure that you don't have this too far forward when you reinsert it, or the spring's not going to line up. Before you screw anything on, make sure the nozzle reset's actually working, which it is. And there you go. It was that easy. I didn't even plan to actually take this off, I just suddenly thought it might be a good thing to show, but that just shows how quickly you can take it all down. I mean, if you've got some problem with the nozzle, for example, say if the spring did break, look how easily you can literally just take that out, and before you know it, you've got a new spring in there and it's back in action. If you're one of these people that brings spare parts in your car to an airsoft field, you could just do this on your back seat in literally 2 minutes. Try doing this on my WEP38. It is an absolute nightmare to take the nozzle group out. And even the Tokyo Marui P226 is a bit annoying because you've got to take 2 screws out, then pop this out and pop that out, and then only then will it finally budge. But this is just a blow in the breeze in comparison. So you reassemble it opposite. Stick the pin back in, make sure it's sat on there good, and then we can just pop the slide back on. Oh, something I will mention quickly before I put that all the way on. I polish these rails. They are a little bit rough when you get them, and something that I think will improve the gun just a little. It does make the slide a lot more silky. Once again, you line up those 2 points and pop the slide lock back in. Make sure that's in and it's not coming out. Make sure I didn't quite push it hard enough. Right, there we go. Now it's working. Check the functions, obviously. Let the slide forward. To wrap this up, what would I say? What are the pros? Well, it's very well constructed, excellent materials, very, very well built. There's no ugly seams or anything. I mean, just the quality of it is just wonderful. Like, the only thing that feels like a slightly not the best material is the outer barrel. It's not fragile, but it feels, I don't know, it's not the best and it's a tiny bit wobbly, but it doesn't affect performance too much. I mean, it's not wobbling to the point where the accuracy is bad, put it that way. But the actual finish on everything looks lovely. It's got a lovely finish. It's amazing. The trigger's lovely, it's got a lovely finish. The metal itself is wonderful. Magazines are solid, great quality. So that leads me to the next pro, the magazines. They're amazing, the CO2 mags are wonderful. Just a point of reference, I probably should have said this earlier actually, but I forgot. These are interchangeable with the Shadow models. They do take the same magazines because they're both CZ75 mags, of course. So yeah, you don't have to look specifically for the CZ75 or the Shadow mags, they're all the same. That applies to the gas mags too. It doesn't apply to some of the other CZ guns though, only the 75 series. But as for these mags, I can speak for from experience, they're very, very good. CO2 lasts well with them. The gun's extremely snappy when it goes off. My final thoughts, do I recommend it? Yes. The only time I'd say no is if you're looking for a pistol that you can upgrade almost every part of, then no, I wouldn't recommend it for that. Also, being that it's the first model, it doesn't have a modern 20mm Picatinny rail or anything to mount like a Surefire light and stuff like that. Another con is holsters. They don't really make specific holsters for these in terms of the airsoft market. Stuff like the new Prol G series retention holsters, they don't have a model for the CZ75. I don't know if they will fit in Shadow holsters. The Shadow is slightly different in some dimensions. That's something I haven't been able to find out actually since I last looked. So holsters might be a slight issue if you're just hoping to sort of find something specific just for this. Your best option would be to get a universal holster like the Warrior Assault Systems thumb release one if you can, because you can just adjust that to any gun pretty much. And then also you're future proofed if you get any other sidearms as well. So the other cons, there aren't any. I love this gun. That's the only really con in my opinion is, yeah, it's not as customizable as it might be in terms of internals and externals and stuff like that. It would be nice to have a little bit more stuff for it. But that's really it. The performance is wonderful, the build quality is wonderful, totally reliable. I've never had a single problem with it not operating in any weather or temperature conditions so far. Specifically with the CO2 mags, of course. And that's really it. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments. And please also feel free to rate, comment or subscribe for some more content. So I thank you for watching. Everybody stay safe, stay home and all that jargon, and hopefully this lockdown crap will end soon and we can go out and actually shoot some stuff. That would be great, wouldn't it? Thanks for watching guys, see you soon.